161 says, Peter Parker trope of a bad person with good intentions and tragic backstory. Yeah. Well, I don't think Peter's a bad person. I think he's just like he's just been dealt a really shit hand in life. And he's trying to deal with life as best as he possibly can while also trying to be a good person. But he's just kind of slips up every now and again because he's a psycho. Like everyone in Spider-Man comics, because that book is a psycho soap opera. Where like literally nobody is in control of themselves. Chief among them, Betty Brant. Like the more classic Spider-Man I read, the more I realize that Betty Brant is a complete psycho who needs to be locked away in Ravencroft. Like seriously, this woman is not in control of her actions at all. And like even before her husband Ned Leeds dies, like everyone talks about Ned Leeds dying as like, oh, this is when Betty lost her mind. No, Betty didn't lose her mind. Betty never had a fucking mind. She's been crazy from the beginning. Like you go back and read a lot of those old 60s Spider-Man comics. Well, first of all of the women are like unreasonable psychopaths. They're crazy people. They're just not right in the head. But Betty is like a special breed of like, fuck's wrong with you, girl? Like, like, okay, Peter begins working for the Daily Bugle when he's like, what, 15, 16? They make a note that Betty Brant is like 24, 25. So you have this like 16-year-old boy going into like his part-time job, dropping off pictures of Spider-Man, and Betty's like, "Ooh, little boy, you take pictures? It'd be nice if you took some pictures and spent time with me outside of class." Like, ma'am, that's a child. That is a child. Hey, sit, Miss Brant. Why don't you have a seat here with me? Why don't you have a seat here with me, Miss Brant? Just absolutely like out of her mind. And there are like moments where Betty is walking down the street and she'll see Peter hanging out with Flash Thompson and, you know, Liz Allen, and she's like, oh, Peter is hanging out with girls his own age. He doesn't want to smash my Betty Brantussy. It's like, because he's a newsflash, teenage boy would like to spend time with girls his own age. Like, I don't think there's something wrong with that, Miss Brant, but you do. So clearly something is wrong with you. Betty Brant's insane. Oh, and then later there's like a whole bit where like, I can't remember the issue number, but it's heavily implied that Peter loses his virginity to Betty Brant because she like shows up at his apartment and she's like, Peter, I've left Ned and I want you so badly. I've wanted you for years. And Pete's like, all right, we're doing this. And then, you know, the next page, they're very subtle about it, you know, but they make it known that Pete and Betty, what am I doing? But yeah, no, they skadoodle, and they skadoodle the noodle, and Peter Parker's goes spadoodle, and Pete goes off, does some Spider-Man stuff, then he comes back to his apartment, and it's been a long night, it's been a crazy night. He gets a knock on his door, and then he opens the door, and then Ned Leeds punches Peter in the face and is like, you stay away from my wife, who probably told you that we're divorced and broken up, but we're not, and I'm gonna punch you, because she's my wife, and you need to back off, buddy. And Betty's like, I'm sorry, Ned, It's like, Betty, you initiated this. What's wrong with, like, Betty Brant's a crazy person. Betty Brant is crazy. Like, this woman is not in control of herself. She needs to be locked away in, like, an institution somewhere. If some brave soul were to somehow make Betty Brant like the next big Spider-Man supervillain, I could totally see that happening. Like, I could totally see that, like, being the case with this character. It tracks so well. Like, it tracks, like, it tracks. Betty Brant's crazy. She's a supervillain. Little did we all know, this is not a Spider-Man supporting character. This is just, we're watching the long-awaited evolution of the next big Marvel supervillain here. Yep. Yep, this is just one long supervillain origin story.
Charged up.